Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Samuel Schallenberger. I am the Assistant Director for Orientation and Student Development in our College Programming and Orientation Office here at UChicago. And this is our Introduction to College Advising webinar, part of our summer series of orientation. All of our webinars, including this one, are recorded and posted on our website. We'll drop the link in the chat at the end so that you can check that out if you missed any of the ones that have already happened. And you can also go back and rewatch this one if you would like to just watch it again, or if you need to leave for any reason. All of that is going to be posted right up there. You can submit questions through the Q&A function, and all of our panelists here today from College Academic Advising Office will be able to see those. So in the meantime, I'm going to pass it on over to the College Academic Advising team. And again, feel free to send those questions in the Q&A function or the chat box.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the College Academic Advising Office's webinar called Introduction to College Advising. My name is Robin Graham. I am the Assistant Director in the College Academic Advising Office, and I'm joined by three of our wonderful academic advisors who will talk with you today about what to expect as you work with our office and with your academic advisor. Just a quick reminder that you should have pre-registered for your preferred humanities sequence last week. And starting tomorrow, you should go to the my.uchicago portal to schedule a summer appointment with your academic advisor. You'll need to meet once, preferably via Zoom, between June 28th, that's tomorrow, and August 12th in order to complete your autumn quarter registration. If for some reason you are not available for an appointment with your advisor during that time period, please just let your advisor know and they will direct you on next steps. You can add questions to the chat during this presentation, but we are going to hold all questions until the end of the presentation. And then finally, don't miss our final webinar, which will take place on August 12th, and that will cover how to pre-register for your autumn quarter classes. Let's get started. So as I mentioned, I'm joined by three colleagues today: Judith Hernandez, Anastasia Bursch, and Will Rawl. And as usual, we are so happy to be chatting with you today. Give you a brief overview of the agenda that we're going to cover. We'll give an introduction to our office, welcome you to the philosophy of academic advising, talk to you about how you get started with your advising sessions, and then share with you what's next in terms of your summer conferences. So this is just a brief overview of the makeup of our office. Our advisors are generalists, meaning that they advise across all majors and areas of interest. They also come from a variety of educational and experience backgrounds. We have advisors, a senior advisor, 5 advising deans, and 1 director in our office, and we all advise students. We're open from 8:30 to 5. We're not open on the weekends. We work very hard to get back to students within 24 business hours. If you email us, we try to get back to you within 24 business hours. But of course, if you email us after 5 or on the weekends, you should expect to hear back by the end of that next business day. That's really important. You know, as you reach out to us, we want to make sure that we're clear in terms of the expectations of when you can hear back from us, but we do work really hard to make sure that we respond to you appropriately and quickly. So now I will turn it over to Will, who will talk about the advising relationship and philosophy.
Thank you, Robin, and thanks to everyone for coming today. I'm here to talk a little bit about what advising actually is and how our office approaches advising, because a lot of you might not really be familiar with what academic advising is. It was something certainly that was new to me when I came to college, because in high school, I really didn't have a lot of academic freedom to pick a major, to choose from a plethora of classes. In a sense, I didn't really have that opportunity to make my education my own. In college, you are going to have that freedom. You're going to have the freedom to make your experience your own and the freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do here. That freedom can very oftentimes be overwhelming. It can be confusing. And a lot of students aren't quite sure what to do with all of the freedom that they find themselves with. And that's really where our office comes in. We are here to help you navigate that because we understand how challenging this process can be. And we understand that college is not meant to be an experience that you should have to decipher alone. That's where we come in. Academic advising is a proactive academic service that helps students to think critically about how they want to spend their time here at UChicago and to develop realistic plans for achieving those goals. Beginning tomorrow, you will start having meetings with us. For those of you who are my students, you can actually make an appointment right now. I've already had a few endeavoring students who have already made appointments with me, and I'm very excited. So go now, schedule an appointment. Let's chat sometime soon. So that we can begin our 4-year-long conversation about how you're going to make the most of your time here at UChicago. We're going to chat. We're going to discuss what interests you. We're going to start to get to know one another so that we can plan and put together a path that's going to be best for you. We're going to share the most relevant resources and most effective ideas so that you can grow into that expert, you can grow into that advocate, or grow into that person that you want to become. So our office is really about building relationships. It's about building trust, and it's about empowering students so that they can have the resources to make their education their own. So really, what does all of that actually mean? What actually is academic advising? Well, here you'll see a few of our main points. First, academic advising is for everyone. I think a lot of students think that they need to go to their academic advisors when they're struggling with something. I so often hear students say, I can't get into a class. I need to talk to you. I'm having problems with a physics class. What do I need to do? I maybe need to talk about withdrawing from a class. I need to talk to my academic advisor right now. Of course, we're happy to talk about all of those things, and those certainly fall under the broader umbrella of academic advising, but really, that's only a small sliver of what we actually do. Because as I said before, and as you will continue to learn, this is about helping you plan. So it's not just about when you're struggling, but when you just have conversations about, what you want to do here. We're here to help you talk about the pros and cons, for example, of majoring in a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry versus a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. We're here to plan if you need strategies for getting letters of recommendations for professors. If you want to talk about what it takes to get into graduate school or the kinds of things you need to do for that, we are here to discuss those things. That's exactly the kinds of conversations that I have with my students every day, every week. And each of you have exciting and interesting things to discuss, and we are really already looking forward to discussing those things with you. So advising, first off, is for everyone, not just when you're running into problems or not when you're just experiencing challenges. Second, academic advising is a holistic experience. I understand that my title is academic advisor, but we know that there is not a discrete line between the academic side of your life and everything else that's going in your life. Very often, your ability to succeed in the classroom is affected by any number of things that could be going on outside of it. So, of course, we're here to chat with you about when you want to discuss study habits for chemistry, but we're also here to listen if you're having trouble managing a work-life balance, if you're having troubles with a roommate, if you're uncertain about what summer plans are, maybe if you're feeling a bit homesick, or if you're just not quite feeling yourself, please feel comfortable bringing those concerns to us. Now, it's important to say our expertise is limited. This is not counseling. We're not therapists. There is a completely separate office for that. And we're only trained to do so much. But at the very least, we can always listen, and we can always provide you a space if you need somewhere to feel comfortable discussing what's going on. If we can't answer what's going on or what's come up in your life, we can certainly direct you to the office who can, but at the very least, we can be the first place to turn when something comes up. It is my biggest fear that students don't know where to turn for something. And while our office doesn't specialize in everything, we can be that first step for you if you're not quite sure where to go. So that's what we mean by holistic. We're here to support you on a number of different levels, and it's just a matter of turning to us when something comes up. So advising for everyone, advising holistic, and academic advising is a partnership. When you come to my office, I hope to just not talk at you. That's not productive. That's not a good use of your time. But instead, this is meant to be a give and take. This is meant to be a professional relationship that depends on both of us for a productive outcome. So really what that means is that you should have expectations about what you're going to get from us, just as I have expectations about what we're going to get from you. And so I want to talk a little bit more in depth about what that advising relationship actually looks like. So when you come to our office, there are a few different expectations that you can have from us. So of course, you can always expect us to provide you with timely and relevant resources for whatever questions you might have regarding your academic experience or academic policies. If you want to know what it takes to major in something, great, we can answer that. If you want to know how to get an exception to a particular major, great, we can answer that. You can always expect us to know what's going on with policies and with other kinds of academic resources. So please bring those questions to us. Two, you can always, we will always consider each student as a unique case. So often students will come to me and say, oh, I should be in this class because a friend is in it, or I should get this internship because that's what econ majors need to do. That could often be the case, but what I am here to do is help you figure out what's going to be the best path for you. And so there isn't always going to be, or isn't ever going to be, a one-size-fits-all approach to graduating college. There isn't one way to advise public policy majors or human rights majors. There isn't one way to advise pre-med students or anything like that. And rather than conform to some peer pressures that you're inevitably going to experience while you're here at the University of Chicago, it is our goal to help find what's going to be, again, the best path for you. And that requires us not only to think about each student as a unique case, but also to ask that you think critically about the paths that you're considering. That you think about, oh, I'm going to be an econ major, why? Why am I going to be a history major? All of these questions about asking why can really help you take ownership over your own academic path, right? To think about, I'm going to major in history and not public policy because that's going to be the best path for you. And that's really what we mean when we say think critically, is to ask yourself, okay, why am I choosing this path or this class or this major or this minor over other things, so that, again, you can realize your goals and do what it is that you want to do here. So we're going to ask you to think critically. And lastly, we are here to listen. Whatever's going on, whatever interests you, whatever you may have as your goals, we're here to listen to them, we're here to hear them, and we're here to consider them seriously. So that's what you can expect from us. From you, we're going to ask a few things as well. First, we'll just ask that you come prepared and that you have reviewed college policies. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that you need to be an expert in the core curriculum already. By all means, I've been working here for over 2 years, and I can't say that I am an expert in the core curriculum. Don't need to have that memorized. Just be familiar enough with it so that you can ask questions about it. It is a more productive use of our time to talk about what core arts classes may be interesting to you than really just what the core arts classes are. It may be more interesting for us to talk about what majors are going to be interesting to you rather than what majors simply exist. So ask that you review the college catalog, ask that you review some of our policies and be familiar with stuff so that we can have more productive conversations. Two, we'll ask that you be open to this process, right? I am always concerned that a student is going to come in and I'm going to say, oh, what brings you in today? And they're going to say to me, oh, I'm just here because I have to be. Well, we can't really do much with that. Yes, of course, you are required to be here. There's no getting around that. But now that you are here, let's make the most of this. Let's be open. Let's start this conversation. Let's talk about what your goals are, rather than just tick a box on a thing that you have to do. So we ask that you, again, be open, take this seriously, and think about what it is that you want to do and some thoughtful questions you can bring to us. And just along those lines, we'll say that an expectation that we have is to ask questions. Ask questions about anything. There are no dumb questions. There are no questions that are too off the wall, too obscure, questions that even if we can't answer, we can certainly find the resources so that you can find the answer as well. So if you want to know what minors that we have that might pair well with a public policy major, great, ask. If you want to know what to major in, if you're interested in designing video games, great, ask. If you're a big K-pop fan and you want to know what RSOs to join, great, we can talk about that. If you want to literally know how to join the circus, we can talk to you about that. So please, again, whatever questions you may have, bring them to us. The answer will always be no until you ask. Even then, it still might be no, but at least you ask and you know definitively. So ask questions. And then I think that leads to this, this sort of biggest point is to communicate. We ask that you communicate. And this might be the most challenging bit of it all, because some of you might not yet be comfortable opening up about your goals and your ambitions to a veritable stranger, right? We understand that communication is a process, and we are invested in building that relationship and building that trust with you so that you feel comfortable sharing with us what it is that you want to do. So we're here to open those avenues of communication. We're here to invest in you, and we're hoping that you will invest in us as well. So please keep that in mind and check your email every once in a while. So now that we've sort of established some of the sort of groundwork and foundations about what the partnership looks like, how we approach advising, and what academic advising actually is, let me just take a couple of minutes to sort of continue with those expectations and establish a couple of things that academic advising isn't. So first off, academic advising isn't a punishment. Yes, it's required, but that doesn't mean it's a punishment. This is not the principal's office. We are not here to scold you if you get a bad grade on a paper in a humanities class, because chances are we're not going to know if you get a bad grade in the humanities class. If you're struggling, we certainly want to know about that, but this isn't the space where we're going to say, excuse me, you got a bad grade in a philosophy paper, now we need to talk about it. No, this is a productive and we're here to sort of build things. We're not here to scold or to say, we know about this grade. It is a chance for you to talk and grow and build on and improve for next time. So first off, this is not a punishment. It is meant to be productive. Second, this is not a service for your parents. I'm sure there's some parents that are on this Zoom call. This is a message for you as well. We find that the most productive relationships that we have is with students. And that's the way that we prefer this interaction to work, is communicating expectations and discussing goals with students. If you want to have conversations about this process, that conversation is best had with your student. You can communicate with your student, we will communicate with your student, and I think that's the most productive way for this to unfold. So this is not and additionally, we are bound by federal law not to share particular information. So even then, it's not especially useful. So this is mainly for students. So let's just kind of keep that there. And lastly, we are academic advisors. We can only advise. This is not about telling you what to do. We are not dictators that are going to tell you this is what you should major in. This is what classes that you should take. This is what minors you should take. This is what path you should go through. Ultimately, what our job is to show you all of the different possibilities that are available and help you sort of weigh the pros and cons and think through all of the options that you have, so that when you make a decision about a major, about a class, about a minor, you can know that you're making the best decision for yourself. And that way you're really taking ownership of your own time here at the University of Chicago. And that's what we're about here, is empowering you to make the most of your time here. So that's what we're invested in. That's what we're hoping to help you with. And that's what we're looking forward to getting started with you tomorrow. So make your appointments. And Judith here is going to help talk to you about what's to come next. So Judith, take it away.
Thanks, Will. That was great. So today I will be talking to you about regular advising and scheduling, about required and suggested conferences, and also ways to connect with your advisors. You are expected to meet with us for your first year every quarter. So starting this summer, starting tomorrow, you may set up your appointments. Starting today, schedule your appointment and we'll start seeing you soon. Every quarter, autumn, winter, and spring, again, we'll be doing quarterly check-ins during your first year, as it is required. Just want to emphasize the importance of creating that rapport with you and creating a healthy connection. We want to get to know you. If you send us an email, we see your name pop up, oh yes, I remember my student from when we met in the summer. So now the name is familiar. Healthy connection. We want to understand your interests and we want to advocate for you. So again, that's where the required part comes in, forming those relationships as we get to know you during your first year. So first year is getting to know you and also fourth year. So first year and fourth year are required conferences at the moment. We want to, as a first year, we want to ensure a smooth transition to the college, checking in on your academic progress. It's going smoothly, great. We get to know your academic performance. But if you're having a hard time, let's figure it out together. In your fourth year, as a required conference, we want to review your degree audit to make sure everything is running smoothly, or if we need to make adjustments. As a second year, it's really highly recommended that you make an appointment. Second and third year are not required, but again, for second year, if you want to declare a major, minor, sometimes majors, minors require specific approvals, and that's again where we come in to make sure that you are following the process. Third year is also a great time to make sure that you are on track for your fourth year. Summer is a good time to prepare with that. So making also summer appointments during your third year, that'll be a good idea. And it just helps us, both the advisor and student, to get ready for that fourth year required appointment. And ways to connect with advisors. We're back in person. Things are changing. There's a big emphasis on in-person activities. So we do have limited online options. This will depend on your advisor's schedule and availability. So when you go to the college advising website, you'll be able to see a few appointments online, but the majority will be expected to be in person. In person, it's highly preferred. Again, we're trying to emphasize interpersonal connections and establishing that relationship with you. Other options that we have are advisor on call, also known as AOC, and walk-in hours. I do want to clarify that these will not fulfill required conferences. These are a little bit more flexible. They can be both in person or online, and they are short 20-minute appointments. The advisor on call is a great way if you have maybe like a last-minute question. Maybe it's the withdrawal deadline, or maybe you want to drop a class. Those would be examples of when to come to an advisor on call. The walk-in hours are set up by each advisor. They set a time aside. And again, it's a time for you to, if you have a quick question, that you can have your advisor answer for you. And then we also started doing dining halls. Advisors go to the actual dining halls, have lunch with you guys. And if you have questions, feel free to come up to us. If we're eating, that's okay to interrupt us. But again, we do keep in mind that we are in a public space, so we would not talk about confidential items like grades or roommate issues. It would be more of a friendly check-in, how's it going? Or hey, did you get my email from the other day? So again, dining halls, just to as an opportunity to say hi. And then there's events throughout campus, for example, orientation, graduation. You'll probably see us around as well. So again, we're really trying to establish a physical presence throughout campus. And again, we're here to advocate for you. So, taking advantage of this advising system that we have in place for students. And last but not least, so to make an appointment, you probably already have tried it today. The college scheduling website here on the screen. So you would go there, you'll see different options such as your summer advising or the advisor on call, and you'll be able to set that up. And and then we'll see you soon. I'll pass it over now to Anastasia.
Thanks, Judith. So before we take questions in this last section, I'm going to review what preparation to have complete before your first advising meeting, which, as Judith and Will mentioned, can start as early as tomorrow. So we are asking that you do 3 things before meeting with us. First, we'd like you to review materials related to course offerings and degree programs. The more information you have absorbed, the more empowered your choices will be. Second, please be sure to reflect about what you are interested in learning and what your hopes are for coming to UChicago as a student. And third, please keep close attention to the schedule of important dates and get them on your calendar as soon as possible. So we'll go through each of these. So to begin, please be sure to review these websites. We spoke about the college catalog at the last webinar, but if you haven't already, please be sure to skim through it. You'll be regularly consulting the college catalog throughout the next 4 years, so please get familiar, as it lists all the possibilities that exist for each department, as well as the requirements and general course information. Also, please be sure to read through the new student advising website. And lastly, take your time to review the core. As we explained in the last webinar, the core is fundamental to your studies here at UChicago. And the more you understand about how the core works, the more you can forge your own trajectory. And I'm going to pause here in case you want to take a screenshot or a picture of these websites just to have on hand. So I'm going to pause. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So I want to emphasize, however, echoing a little bit about what Will said in the beginning, that at this first meeting, we are not asking you to have answers. We want you to actually do the opposite and only bring along possibilities for us to discuss. This is partially because there are so many options at UChicago, over 53 majors, 59 minors. So we want to be sure that you're taking the time to pause and explore each option. I can't tell you how many times in an advising session that I'll be working with a student and point out a degree option or even a class that fits their studies perfectly, but that they didn't see because they are so hyper-focused on only one major or route. So we're just asking, when you come into that first meeting, please keep an open mind. And the other thing that we want to recommend you concentrate on for this first meeting is to ask yourself what classes you're hoping to enroll in for the first quarter. So to review, we'll ask you, what Hume class did you pre-reg for? Will you take 2 or 3 quarters of Hume? Have you taken your math placement exam? Do you know if your prospective majors require calc? And what will you take for your 3rd class? Will you fulfill your language requirement? Are you in a STEM major or considering a program in the humanities? That's all really helpful for us to know. And also, do you know if you'll be taking 300 or 400 units of credit? Will you be involved in a sport or want a little more time to adjust to your first year at college? Let us know what you're thinking. You know, again, there's no one size fits all option. So I'm going to pause here again. We want to make sure you have these dates on your calendar. You should have received many emails about these dates, but again, please schedule a meeting with us starting as early tomorrow. Submit your AP IB scores by July 15th, and here's Chicago's code in case you don't have it on hand. And by July 22nd, please complete your placement exams. If you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to your advisor. Again, we're here to help. So once you've had a chance to do all 3 things, reviewing, reflecting, and scheduling, you'll be meeting one-on-one with your advisor. And just a few things to talk about what's going to happen at this first meeting. First, please know how excited we are to meet with you. This is an important meeting for us because we get to know you and help you take those first few steps towards your studies here. So please know we're as excited as you are to meet you and learn all about you. That's one of the best parts of this job. And the primary agenda will be to talk about your fall schedule and answer any outstanding questions you might have. Just one thing to note, a lot of times we have requests to put together a 4-year plan. This meeting is not intended for that. But as Judith mentioned, you'll be meeting with us every quarter for your first year. So know that there's time for that. We're happy to answer questions about majors, but we're not going to sit down and put together a 4-year plan. And I also want to emphasize that this meeting is required and is about 30 minutes over phone or Zoom. So please come prepared, bring a list of questions, And if you're not sure where to start, one way to focus your energies is to complete the core worksheet. So here's a picture of the core worksheet. You can find it on the new student advising webpage. Again, this can function as a guide through the catalog and answer other questions you might need to reflect on before the first meeting. So if you're not sure where to start, this is a good place to do so. So to conclude, and I saw one question about one way to get the most out of your relationship with your advisor. Part of that might be just introducing us to yourself. So we're really excited to welcome with you and know that the first meeting with your advisor is the start of your academic journey here at UChicago. It's a great time for us to learn about your hopes and dreams for the future. Our office again recognizes that answers are different for every student. So please be sure to tell us about what you hope to achieve in the upcoming fourth years. We also recognize that your academic interests are probably widely varied. So please tell us about your hobbies and interests. We love when students teach us about their passions. For instance, are you interested in black holes? Do you think about sustainable energy or farming practices? Do you think about medieval architecture or Egyptian hieroglyphs? There's a place for you at UChicago. So don't hold back your strange Wikipedia Googles. We want to hear about them. All of this is helpful for us to know as we want to make sure you're connecting with departments that will foster your understanding. Likewise, is there a place you'd like to travel, a language you've always wanted to learn? We work really closely with Study Abroad, so please let us help you travel the globe. And this is because, as Will said earlier, we're here to help you with your whole experience at UChicago. So if you're feeling uncertain about a subject or aren't a math person, we're here to help and can put you in touch with different support systems. Because ultimately our job is to help you find your place at UChicago and to support you as you ask questions fundamental to your learning and passions, as we imagine this is part of the reason you came to this community of scholars, innovators, and thinkers. So, next slide. Please dream big and help us connect the dots. See you soon.
All right, thanks everyone for sticking around with us for the presentation. We have some questions in the Q&A. So I will kind of go down the list, and Will, you're going to run point on the questions, but obviously if any of the other advisors want to chime in, you can do so. So here is a question. As a transfer student, are there other placement tests we need to take, such as for economics, since we may have already taken some of the subjects in our previous university?
I think with transfer students, I think the big thing is to wait until your transfer work is evaluated. So that might then require 2 meetings with your academic advisor, one just sort of an initial meeting and then another after you get your transfer evaluations done. I would say maybe in just as sort of a safety measure, go ahead and take some of the big placement tests, being math, chemistry, any sort of language tests. Then we can have your transfer work evaluated, and then we can kind of go from there. So that's the way I would sort of advise transfer students to approach this stuff. So
yeah, and I would say if you're a transfer student and you want to wait and have your appointment with your advisor later in the summer, you can schedule your appointment even through the week of August 12th. So if you want to wait a little bit later till your transfer eval information is finished, that could be one way to kind of have a productive meeting when you meet with your advisor as well. Okay. Someone asked, how many times are we allowed to meet with our advisor from tomorrow until September?
how many times are you allowed to? Let's start with 1. I mean, you're allowed. I suppose you're allowed to have however meetings that you want to have. Let's start with 1, and then as you have more questions, maybe as we get closer to orientation week and the beginning of classes, then maybe if we can't answer questions over email, then we can maybe discuss another meeting. But Judith, I was about to, you were about to say something. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say I can answer that question, but yes, yeah, that's right.
What else would you add?
Oh, I also wanted to clarify about the online versus in person. So for summer, we are putting emphasis online just because we know all students right now are probably in different parts of the United States or other countries. But moving forward in September in the academic year, that's where we emphasize the more in person.
Great. And so another question, will we have the same advisor for all 4 years?
Yeah, we are here with you for the life cycle of your time here at UChicago, which is a little bit different than they do it at other schools where, you'll have, an advisor while you're undeclared, and then once you declare a major, you'll have a history advisor or a physics advisor or, an advisor in your major. We're a little bit different in that way, in that you have one advisor for your whole time here. So that means we have the agility to kind of know about the different majors and minors, and we're sort of experts in all of these things. But also it really gives us that time to sort of, again, forge those relationships and get to know you so that we can again have that sort of partnership. So
And let me add, I mean, obviously we're all professionals in this office. So, advisors do come and go like in any other job role, but our goal is to make sure that students always have an advisor. I mean, we're going to keep you with the same advisor for as long as we can, but if someone decides to move on, we will, transfer you to another advisor, but we are all professionals, we're all trained, and you will always have someone that you will be connecting with during your time here. So that's just, the reality of the world that we live in terms of, people coming and going, but, we make sure that everyone has someone that they can talk to. Someone asked, is this advising in addition to having an advisor for a specific major? So, once I decide on my major, what happens to my academic advisor? Am I able to reach out to the department?
Actually, yeah. So, whoever advisor you get starting the summer, ideally this would be your advisor for the 4 years. But each program also has its own individual advisor. So for example, economics would have an additional advisor that focuses mainly on that program. Or, if you want to do law letters and the degree in that area, they also have their own advisor. So each program also has advisors in the areas, but ideally you would first start with us as your academic advisor, and then we can direct you to more specific areas.
Okay, someone said they had issues pre-registering for their humanities courses and they didn't get their preferences in by the deadline. Is there anything they can do to make up that and share their rankings? Yes, we do have a link that's available today for you to be able to put your preferences in if you missed. I will add that into the chat as we go along with the question. And then, this is recorded, so the webinar will be on the orientation website. You can see the links to all of the recordings for the webinars. Thank you, Sam. He's saying that all of the recordings will be available here alongside with their other communication. I guess is he putting a link in for you? Great. Someone asked about the core worksheet. Where is it? And do I have to complete it before I meet with my advisor?
So that worksheet is on the new student advising website. You could normally just search the web page, just type in core worksheet. Completing it isn't required, but I think it's a good thing to do if you're not sure where to start or you just want to test your knowledge about the catalog or other questions. None of us are going to say, oh, you didn't complete your core worksheet, but it's just helpful. Oh, and it's in the link. Thank you, Kathy. It's in the chat.
Okay, and I'm also just adding the information so if you were not able to submit your preferences, you can submit them to this link. But again, you want to do it by 5 p.m. today. Let's see, what else do we have? some people asked about the My Planner portal and the My Planner option. We will let you know when that is available for students to be able to review. Right now, since you haven't enrolled in any classes, there's not much for you to see on that site, but once it's available for incoming students, we'll let you know, and then you can take a look at the information that is there. Someone asked, should we submit all AP scores or just those that qualify as supplements to placement tests? I would say, you know, check the college catalog for, there's a section, and maybe somebody can find that link that will tell you what your AP scores will give you in terms of credit. So, you know, you can only use 400 units or 4 credits towards the 4,200 that you have to get here. That will get you that 4,200 number. So 3,800 credits or 38 courses have to be you've taken a class. 4 can be through test credit. So if you have more than that number and it costs you, I don't know if it costs you to, in order to send your scores, you might want to look at that and say, well, I really only strategically need to send these 4 in order to make up what I need or to get to that number that I need. So take a look to see, you know, what you've taken and what we actually accept credit for within that 4. And you can submit those scores through the College Board website. So the College Board website will give you instructions on how to submit your AP scores. And then, as Anastasia mentioned, our college code was 1832.
1832.
Let's see, someone said, it says to contact your advisor if we have issues with AP scores, with scores not coming out until July 5th and being due July 15th. How do we ensure this happens on time? So every summer there are often delays with AP scores. Just go ahead and send them as soon as you can. We have built in some, you know, wiggle room in terms of the time when we give you the deadline and the time that we have to process all of this information. So go ahead and send them as soon as you can. Someone asked, how many students do advisors typically manage?
What do I have, like 250? That's something like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Put in the AP score link. Yeah, so I'd say about 300 students, again, across all 4 years. And again, we have required conferences in that first year and that 4th year. It really does lead to plenty of time. So if you have a question, you don't have to hesitate or feel like, you know, it's not my time to come in. Reach out to your advisor if you need to have an appointment. Do we have to take our placement test before our first summer meeting? No, absolutely not. So go ahead and schedule the meeting at a time that is convenient for you. Good question. I scheduled my meeting with my advisor. However, it doesn't indicate which time zone it's for. How are we supposed to know?
Central time.
Since we're in Central Time, you can assume that it's going to be Central Time. Someone asked, should we do other placement tests that are available which have not been assigned to us specifically? For example, another language not directly assigned to me.
You could take, oh, Judith, I saw you unmuted. So go for it.
I thought about computer science as an example. That would be an example of a possible subject.
Right. So if you think that you might want to take computer science classes here, make sure you follow that information, that link to 1, complete the computer science department survey, because they want to gather that information. Those placement exams are not available through Canvas. They have a totally different platform. So the first thing you want to do if you think you're going to take comp sci courses is fill out that survey. That's how they know that you are interested in doing their placement exam. Then they will reach back out to you to register for those exams. Again, look at the messages that we've sent. There'll be information there about that computer science link and survey. For other languages, you know, you'd only want to take a language if you think if you have some prior knowledge and you think you want to take that class here. If you think you want to start off in a brand new language, then there's no need to take that placement test because we know you're going to start in 101. But again, if you have background knowledge in a particular language and you think you will take it here, then yes, please go ahead and take that placement exam. Everyone, absolutely every single student needs to take the math placement exam. No exceptions. Whether you're transfer or whatever, take the math placement. If you will need to take chemistry or you think you may need to take chemistry, take the chemistry exam. And someone asked about a bio placement exam. There's no bio placement exam. So they require, once again, math. If you think you're going to take chemistry, take chemistry. If you think you're going to take further language study, take a language. If you think you're interested in computer science, do the survey first. And that should take care of it. And someone asked, in Canvas, is the STEM placement test considered the math placement, or is math placement different? So yes, you'll see that invite to STEM and math and chemistry are listed under that heading. So go ahead, keep clicking through and you'll see the math placement. Someone asked about an econ placement test. I heard it was in September. So yes, if you have a particular AP score and I believe a math placement, you will be invited to do, if you want to do some further placements around econ. But again, don't worry about that. That will come later in the summer and you'll learn about that. Okay, someone asked, when do we arrange for how many classes we're going to take for the year? Does someone want to talk to that, speak to that?
Sure. Well, one, you won't necessarily arrange the number of classes you'll take for the year. Of course, you'll register for classes 3 different times for the autumn quarter, the winter quarter, and the spring quarter. But that's exactly the kind of thing you should talk about in this spring meeting, as Anastasia was discussing. You know, talking about how you feel about this transition to college. If you feel ready to dive right in, then maybe we can consider taking 4 classes in this autumn quarter. If you're a little bit hesitant and want to see what the rigor and the pace is going to look like and aren't quite sure, then let's start with 3 classes. Overall, you have to get 4,200 units to graduate. And to do that, you need 6 quarters of 3 classes and 6 quarters of 4 classes. So it's really not uncommon for students to start with a couple of quarters of 3 classes so that they can kind of get a sense of what the pace is going to be like, what the rigor is going to be like, get a better sort of feel for how to balance social life and academic life, those kinds of things. So I think it's just important that you're honest with yourself about, you know, what you want these first couple of quarters to be like and how you want your experience to unfold. That said, if you're interested in pursuing molecular engineering, then we need to take 4 classes. So that there are some sort of twists like that where it's like, if you want to do this, then we have to take 4 classes. But for most students, there are ways to sort of think broadly about this decision, and that's exactly the kind of thing that you can bring to your first summer advising meeting.
Here's a question: if I get a 5 on my AP exam in Spanish, do I test out of the UChicago language requirement?
So yes. I've seen a number of questions about the language competency, including if you are an international student. I don't know if someone can pop the language center link in the chat, but there's different options for different scenarios. So if you get a 5 on your AP score in Spanish, you qualify for language competency and don't need to take the placement test. But again, check out that link. It's different for every student.
Someone asked, is the chemistry placement exam compulsory, or is chemistry compulsory? So the placement exam is not compulsory. If you're choosing a major that does not require chemistry, and you remember, you can look in the college catalog to see, you know, the requirements of the particular majors that you're interested in. So you don't have to take that. However, you do have to take something that will fulfill the core for physical sciences. That could be chemistry. It could be a variety of other courses. The college core curriculum will give you the options of how you can fulfill that physical sciences requirement.
And with regard to that, I would just say there are some majors, if you're getting a Bachelor of Science in something, that require you satisfy your physical science requirements with physical science classes for physical science majors. See how many times I can cram physical science into a sentence. So like math, for example, if you're going to pursue math, you may not think you need chemistry, but in fact, you do need chemistry or physics. So there are very specific ways. So if at all you think you may need to take a chemistry class, specifically designated as chemistry, then it can be useful to take. So I just encourage students to take it just so that they have that placement and don't run into any issues should it come up that they need to take it. But if you know you're going to be a history major, then we don't really need to worry about it.
Thanks.
Spoken as a history major myself. So
someone asked, let's see. Oh, we talked, Will, you mentioned that there was a major where you really need to be in 4 courses every quarter. That was molecular engineering, correct? Where
that's right. Yeah,
if you're thinking about molecular engineering as a major,
that's right.
More than likely you're going to be in 4 courses every quarter.
And pre-med is also a situation where you can find yourself, not this first quarter, there are, you can, but if you're interested in pre-med, in all likelihood, you'll probably be taking four classes in the winter and 4 classes in the spring as well. But there is, depending on what your interests are, there is some leeway to take just 3 classes in this first quarter for students interested in pre-med. But winter and spring will most likely land you in 4 classes. There are a couple of other majors, but again, if you're interested in STEM stuff, just make sure you make that apparent to your advisor in this first meeting, so that we can make sure that we are sort of up on everything that you need.
Someone asked, will students who are double majoring have 2 major advisors or just one for their primary major?
So we're generalists, so no matter what you major or minor in, you'll be assigned to the same advisor. How that works is we work really closely with each different department with faculty members. So we're in contact with them and we might refer you to a specific department, but we're always going to be the starting place for you to ask questions about each major and what you might need to enroll in or answer questions about it generally.
Okay, and then we'll try to pick out maybe 2 or 3 more questions. So again, for people are asking about the placement exams. So, everyone was provided access to take the math, because everyone has to take math. You have access to take chemistry. If you, again, Will mentioned, if you're thinking about a major that requires it, or if you think you're going to take chemistry, then you'll want to take that placement exam. But again, if you are not planning on taking any chemistry and you're sure your major doesn't require it, then you don't have to take that placement exam. For languages, if you want to continue on in a language that you already have some familiarity with, go ahead and take the placement exam in that language. If it's a new language, you know none of that language, then you don't have to take that placement exam, because you'll be in one-on-one if you start that language here. Someone said, if I want to major in biology or biochemistry, do I need to take both the math and the chemistry placement exams? It's a good question. Yes.
Yes.
Someone asked if you want to redo your humanities selection, so your pre-reg preferences. Can you have a redo?
I don't think so.
Reduced. We are going to slot you in as best as we can, and then that's why we ask you to give us, as many choices and selections as you can. Am I overlooking any questions that are sticking out to folks, or just want to make sure? Okay, here's one. I'm not sure. Okay, so someone asked, do I need to tell anyone before I take a language placement exam? No, so you can go straight to the Canvas site and take the exam that you want to take if you want to continue in that particular language. You're welcome. And then someone said, can I go back and take placement tests if that need arises?
Definitely not math. I know that you can redo language evaluations after a year. Because if you haven't taken any classes in that language, I think once you take a class that's sort of seen as the sort of definitive action on where you stand in terms of your placement. But if you haven't taken any class, let's say you take your Spanish placement test this summer, you take a year off from Spanish, and then you want to get reevaluated since language can deteriorate pretty quickly, then you can feel comfortable taking that language placement test again. But for everything else, I think it's you get one shot.
And then someone asked, do the language placement exams have an oral portion on campus? There may be a few that do, but again, once you do the placement exam, they will let you know what you need to do. I think for the most part, you're doing that online through Canvas. All right, I think we've gotten through most of everything. Thank you all for your attention, and we look forward to meeting with you this summer. Turn it back over to you, Samuel.
Thanks, everyone. Once again, this webinar will be uploaded very shortly to that link that I sent in the chat, and I can send it one more time right now. And that also will host all of our other webinars, including academic resources, which we'll be hosting tomorrow with our research and fellowship side of things, as well as university libraries. So head on back at the same time tomorrow if you would like to check that out and see all of our webinars there. Thanks to everyone in College Academic Advising.